March 1943. A windowless room deep inside OKW headquarters, Berlin. 6 men stood around a table covered in naval charts, battle maps, radio transcripts, all marked in red. Outside, the city still believed in victory. Inside this room, the air was different, heavier. One officer held a report, hands trembling, not from cold. The numbers didn't lie, but they couldn't be true. 26 U-boats lost in 1 month. Convoys evading patrol grids with impossible precision. Allied destroyers arriving exactly where German submarines surfaced. Someone spoke the words no one wanted to hear. They're reading us. They thought Enigma was unbreakable, but the silence in that room said everything. The lamp above the table flickered. Cigarette smoke hung in layers. No one moved. Rear Admiral Erhard Mertens placed his glasses down. He'd been running U-boat operations for 2 years. He knew every patrol route, every cipher key rotation, every safeguard. On the wall, a graph, U-boat kills versus losses. In 1941, the line climbed. In 1942, it held. But since January 1943, the line collapsed. One captain leaned forward, his voice barely a whisper. If they've had this since 41, then nothing we sent was secret. Another officer shook his head. Denial, disbelief. But Martin stared at the map. Convoy routes, evasion patterns. It all fit. Every wolf pack ambushed before contact. Every refueling position discovered. Every operational order intercepted. The war beneath the Atlantic wasn't a battle anymore. It was a trap. And Germany had been inside it for years. Rewind to 1940. The Enigma machine was Germany's crown jewel. 159 quintillion possible combinations. Rotors, plug boards, daily key changes. Mathematically unbreakable. Admiral Dönitz believed it completely. The enemy would need a miracle, he once said. Enigma gives us that miracle. And for a time, it worked. 1940. 471 Allied ships sunk. 1941. 432 ships. The Atlantic convoys bled. Britain starved. Churchill called it the only thing that truly frightened me during the war. U-boat commanders became legends. Kretschmer, Prien, Schepke, the happy time. Dönitz expanded the fleet. 300 submarines. 400. He envisioned 1,000. We will cut Britain's lifeline, he promised Hitler. Total blockade by 1943. But then, something shifted. Convoys began zigging when they should have zagged. Destroyers appeared in empty water. Wolf packs found nothing but depth charges. At first, it seemed like luck. Bad weather, improved radar. But by March 1943, the losses were catastrophic. Dönitz requested answers. His staff investigated, and what they found was worse than any torpedo. The intelligence officer laid out the file, page by page, each one worse than the last. January 1943. U-boat losses, 6 submarines. Convoy interceptions, 2 successful attacks out of 9 planned. February 1943. Losses, 19 submarines. Successful attacks, 1. March 1943. First 3 weeks, losses, 15 submarines. Convoys attacked, 0. The room went silent. One officer broke it. Radar. It must be radar. Martins shook his head. He'd already checked. Allied radar couldn't detect a surfaced U-boat beyond 5 miles. Not in fog, not at night. But convoys were changing course 50 miles before any German submarine arrived, rerouting hours in advance, as if they knew the exact coordinates. They did know. Another page. More data. Convoy HX229. Scheduled intercept. 42 degrees north, 48 degrees west. Wolfpack deployed. Convoy diverted 60 miles south before any U-boat transmitted position. Convoy SC-122. Planned ambush, 52 degrees north, 35 degrees west. Destroyers waiting. U-boats depth charged on approach before visual contact. Refueling point Seawolf, Mid-Atlantic. Classified. Never radioed. Allied bombers arrived within 2 hours of the rendezvous. One word appeared again and again in the margin notes. Precision. This wasn't luck. This wasn't guessing. The Allies weren't reacting to German movements. They were reading the orders before the submarines even received them. Martins looked up, his voice flat, factual. If this is true, then every coded transmission since 1941 is compromised. Every operational plan, every patrol grid, every supply route. Everything. The officer across the table stood, his face pale. Herr Admiral, if they've been reading Enigma for 2 years. He didn't finish. He didn't need to. The entire Battle of the Atlantic, every attack, every loss, every decision, had been fought under enemy eyes. March 10th, 1943. Admiral Dönitz sat in his office at U-boat headquarters, Paris. The report from Berlin lay open on his desk. For 2 hours, he didn't move. Outside, his staff worked. Radios crackled, typewriters clacked, operational business continued. But inside that room, the war had already changed. Dönitz was not a man prone to panic. He'd commanded submarines in the First World War. He'd built the Kriegsmarine's U-boat arm from 57 boats to over 400. He understood risk. He understood loss. But this was something else. He read the casualty lists again. March 1st to 10th, 1943. U-91, sunk, Bay of Biscay. U-130, sunk, Mid-Atlantic. U-432, sunk, Convoy ON-166. U-444, sunk, 48 degrees north, 28 degrees west. No distress signal, no survivors. Each one had transmitted its position using Enigma. Each one had been found within hours. Dönitz picked up a pencil. He began writing notes in the margin. Dates, locations, patterns. Then he stopped. He looked at the map on his wall. Pins marked every active U-boat in the Atlantic. Red for sunk, black for active, white for returning. More red than black now. He'd blamed weather, fuel shortages, Allied air cover, improved sonar. But none of that explained this. A knock at the door. His aide entered. Herr Großadmiral, the staff is asking, should we continue Operation Seeteufel? Dönitz didn't answer immediately. Seeteufel. Sea Devil. A coordinated assault on convoy routes using 38 submarines. Weeks of planning. Encrypted orders sent via Enigma. He looked at the report again. If the British were reading Enigma, Seeteufel wasn't a battle plan. It was a death sentence. Cancel it, Dönitz said quietly. The aide blinked. Sir? Cancel the operation. Recall all boats to defensive posture. No new offensives until further notice. But Herr Großadmiral, The Führer expects... Dönitz stood, his voice cold, final. Tell the Führer the Atlantic has become a graveyard, and we've been digging our own graves with every message we send. The aide left. Dönitz sat back down. He stared at the map. He didn't know how the British had broken Enigma. He didn't know when. But he knew this. The war beneath the sea was not just lost. It had been lost for years, and no one had realized until now. The investigation began immediately. OKW formed a special commission. Cryptographers, naval intelligence, signals experts. Their task: determine if Enigma was compromised. They worked in secret. Even speaking the question aloud felt like treason. For 3 weeks, they tested everything. Theory 1. Cipher weakness. The mathematicians ran the numbers. 159 trillion possible settings. Daily key changes. 3 rotor system, soon to be 4. Conclusion: breaking Enigma through mathematics alone would require decades of computation. Impossible with current technology. Theory 2. Captured materials. They reviewed every incident, every U-boat sunk, every vessel boarded. Yes, U-110 captured in 1941. Codebooks taken. But those keys expired within days. Yes, U-559 boarded in 1942. Material seized. But again, keys rotated constantly. Captured keys explain days of compromise, not years. Theory 3. Operator error. They examined transmission logs, thousands of them. Some operators reused phrases. Some sent weather reports in predictable formats. Rookie mistakes. But the Allies weren't just reading poorly encrypted messages. They were reading everything. One cryptographer, Dr. Ludwig Stummel, put it simply: if the enemy is reading our traffic, they have either broken the machine itself, or they have a source inside every U-boat command, every naval station, every cipher room in the Reich. One is mathematically improbable. The other is logistically impossible. He paused. Which means we are facing something we do not understand. The commission presented their findings to Dönitz on April 1st, 1943. Their conclusion was careful, bureaucratic, terrifying. We cannot confirm that Enigma is broken, but we cannot confirm that it is secure. Dönitz read the report twice. Then he asked the only question that mattered. If we assume it's compromised, what does that mean for the war? Silence. Finally, one officer spoke. It means, Herr Gross-Admiral, that for 2 years we have been sending our submarines into ambushes we ourselves arranged. It means every patrol order, every rendezvous point, every attack coordinate was delivered directly to British destroyers before our crews even received them. It means the enemy hasn't been fighting us. They've been hunting us. Dönitz closed the file. The logic was inescapable. Germany had built the most sophisticated naval cipher in history, rotated keys daily, trained operators rigorously, enforced strict radio discipline, and none of it mattered. Because somewhere, in a mansion in England, in a room full of mathematicians and engineers, the impossible had happened. Enigma had been broken, not through capture, not through espionage, through something worse. Pure intellect. A team of minds working in secret. Machines built to think faster than human brains. Patterns detected in billions of messages. The Germans had trusted mathematics. The British had out-mathematized them. And the cost? Dönitz looked at the casualty board. 1943 losses to date. 63 U-boats. Over 3,000 men. Not lost in battle. Lost because the enemy could read their orders before they could. He picked up a pen, wrote a single line in his diary. "We are fighting blind. The enemy sees everything." Then, one final realization. If Enigma was broken, how much else had been compromised? Army communications, Luftwaffe operations, Eastern Front logistics. What if the entire German war effort had been transparent for years? The room felt smaller suddenly. Dönitz stood, walked to the window. Paris stretched below, occupied, secure, or so it seemed. "Gentlemen," he said quietly, not turning around, "we have been losing this war longer than we knew. And there is no cipher that can save us now." The orders went out quietly. No formal announcement, no admission of failure. But by May 1943, the evidence was undeniable. May 1943, Black May. 41 U-boats sunk in 1 month. Over 2,000 men lost. Dönitz pulled the remaining submarines from the North Atlantic. The first strategic retreat of the U-boat war. Hitler demanded explanations. Dönitz gave him technical reports. Radar, aircraft, escort carriers. He never said the word Enigma. Some in the high command refused to believe it. "The machine is perfect," they insisted. "The Allies are simply lucky." But the numbers told a different story. 1939 to 1942. Germany sank 2,800 Allied ships. 1943 onward, Germany sank 600. The Battle of the Atlantic didn't end with a dramatic confrontation. It ended with silence. Fewer transmissions, shorter patrols, defensive posture. By 1944, U-boats operated under strict radio silence. They used dead reckoning, manual coordination, returned to tactics from the First World War. They stopped trusting the machine they'd built their strategy upon. But by then, it was too late. The Allied convoys flowed freely. American factories poured weapons into Europe. D-Day's logistics moved without interruption. The greatest weapon Germany thought it possessed, unbreakable communication, had been its greatest vulnerability. After the war, the truth emerged slowly. Bletchley Park, Station X, the bomb machines, Alan Turing, thousands of code breakers working in secrecy. They'd broken Enigma in 1941, not through luck, through brilliance, and they'd hidden it perfectly. The Allies never acted on every decrypted message. That would have revealed their advantage. Instead, they used it strategically. Reroute a convoy here, ambush a U-boat there, always with plausible deniability, always with cover stories, radar, reconnaissance, intelligence leaks. The British made sure the Germans suspected everything except the truth. When German intelligence investigated in 1943, they found anomalies, patterns, suspicions. But they also found reassurance. Enigma cannot be broken. And so they kept using it, even as doubt crept in, even as losses mounted. Because admitting Enigma was compromised meant admitting something worse, that the entire war had been fought with the enemy reading over their shoulder, that every brilliant strategy, every tactical decision, every operational order, all of it had been known in advance. that Germany's most advanced technology had been defeated by mines and mathematics. It was easier to believe in bad luck, in superior Allied radar, in tactical errors. It was easier than accepting they'd been outthought. Dönitz survived the war. At Nuremberg, he testified about U-boat operations. When asked about Enigma, he said, "We suspected compromise, but we could never prove it. By the time we understood the scope, there was nothing left to protect." The prosecutor pressed, "When did you realize you'd lost the Battle of the Atlantic?" Dönitz paused. Then, March 1943. But in truth, we lost it 2 years earlier. We simply didn't know. Today, an Enigma machine sits in a museum in London, behind glass, silent. Beside it, a placard, "The breaking of Enigma shortened the war by an estimated 2 years, saved countless lives, changed the course of history." It doesn't mention the other side of that story. The German sailors who transmitted coordinates and never returned. The commanders who sent encrypted orders into what they thought was secure void. The intelligence officers who suspected the truth but couldn't prove it until it was too late. War is not won by bullets alone. It's won by information, by knowing what the enemy doesn't know you know. Germany had the machines, the discipline, the training. But the Allies had the mathematicians who saw what was supposed to be invisible. And in the end, that made all the difference. In war, even your greatest strength can become your fatal weakness. Not because it failed, but because you never knew it had.